Let's talk about Next Stars. You just brought that up. So you have much more. Well, you are the guy now for the Next Star program, right? What's your sort of title with that?
My title, I'm the
Say
GM.
you're like the president. You're the president of the Next Star program.
That's right. Let's roll with that. I'm El Presidente of the Next Stars. No, I'm the GM of Next Stars recruitment.
Yeah.
Which means basically I work hand in hand with the Commissioner, Jeremy Lowliger, on running the Next Stars program.
Yeah. So how does Next Stars work? So it seems like there's been like some understanding it, and there's stuff that's quite transparent. Other things you're like, I don't really get the rules around it. So can you give us a real brief sort of idea of how it actually works for teams?
Sure. Well, I mean, I guess what most people who have been following the league for a period of time know is that the Next Stars program is set up to attract NBA draft prospects from around the world to come and play in the NBL for a year potentially, or potentially more, elevate their draft stock, develop their game, have a terrific life experience, and then begin their careers and head off to the NBA draft and grow from there. I mean, that's the program in a nutshell. It's seen some different iterations over a period of time when all of a sudden the draft and stash element of a player recruitment went from becoming an import like James Ennis or Devon Hall or these types of guys, Jordan McRae, to sitting within the Next Stars space. Didi Luzada and Justinian Jessup were examples of that. But predominantly, as the Next Stars program is set up to attract draft-eligible players, Josh Giddey, LaMelo Ball, AJ Johnson, Alexander Sarr, these guys that are looking at an alternative pathway on their way from playing either high school ball in the American case, or maybe some pro ball in Europe, like was experienced with some of the French guys and others that have come here, Ariel Hookporty, or coming out of the junior ranks or the NBA Global Academy, the Center of Excellence, like what was Josh Giddey's experience, on their way to the NBA draft, an alternative pathway to go from here to there, and it's become a proven pathway in that regard and is attractive, real high-level talent.
So how does it work? Are these guys all paid a set salary? Does the team get to decide how much they're paid? Does it come off the salary cap? What about those sorts of things?
The Next Stars salaries sit outside the salary cap, always has and always will be. So that's a really attractive element of recruiting these guys and working with these players from a team perspective. The salary is not a set amount. It's a negotiated on a case by case basis, and obviously, as has been sort of stated previously, the league is involved in that process, in engaging the player, contracting the player, and then from that point, that then takes the decision about which team the Next Star is the prospect's going to play for. We take the financial element out of that decision.
Right.
So that's a pure basketball decision, which is a really kind of key component of the process. So that the league contracts the player, engages the player. As they go through their period of time in the NBL, their salary is paid by the league, by the NBL accounts department, not by that team. And so then the decision about who they're going to play for, as I say, is a pure basketball decision. With the focus is on the fit, the role, the roster, the city in some instances, the coach, what's going to be a great spot for both the team, but also the prospect, to make sure it's a win-win situation moving forward.
So the league then sits down with the front office of a team and says, hey, we'd like this, we think this player would be a good fit for you guys, or do the teams express interest? Like, okay, do you say there's a pool of Next Stars who would like this guy, and then you sort of put your hand up, and is that how it works?
It's a bit of a combination of all of that. One of the things that I'm trying to bring to the program in my role is a constant dialogue with the key decision makers at all of our 10 NBL teams in this space. So I'm in constant communication with the coaches, the CEOs, the GMs about their roster, what that looks like moving forward, what it looks like right now, what it might potentially look like in the Next Stars this conversation as well. So I was in, like, let's use Alexander Sarr as a case. I was in
Who's coming to
conversation with
Perth
Danny,
Wildcats. Yeah.
who's signed with the Perth Wildcats. Yeah, well, signed with the league and
Yes.
the Perth Wildcats. Been constant communication with Danny as well as all the other key decision makers, as I said. But in constant communication with Danny about, well, what's the team going to look like next season? What's the team going to look like moving forward? In which kind of space would you be interested in a next star? And then as we kind of start to engage with players, I'll then start to sort of speak to these guys about potential next stars, not guys that have signed as next stars, but guys that we're in conversation with who could potentially come into the mix. Is this a guy that you'd be looking to engage with? Get a bit of a sense in that regard. And then from there, there's an expression of interest process. Then when we get to a pointy end in conversations with the player and their agents, their family, and there's a real strong interest in coming to the Next Stars, we then put out communications to all of the clubs to say, if there is a genuine interest to engage with this player, let us know within a period of time.
Yeah.
And then we pick up those conversations from there. And from that point, the player and their team have the opportunity to meet with the key players, key guys at those teams, have Zooms, essentially get presented to, pitched to, as to why they would be a great landing spot. And, in the end, the decision lies primarily, almost wholly, really, with the player and their group. Something we want them to make sure, we want the team to make sure that they're in the game pitching for a player that they really want.
Yep.
And we want the player to land somewhere that they feel really confident and comfortable with, because we feel like that's the best opportunity to get a great result all round. So that's what happened with Alexander Sarr. He was really impressed with what Danny and John really presented. Felt like it was a really good fit. The role was exactly what he was looking for. The organization, the city, the fan base, and felt comfortable diving in and signing on with the Wildcats.
That's cool. So one last one on this. So you essentially get to play God a bit, right? Like, you don't get to pick, like, you get to match up a player right with the team. So you do a lot of, like, the moving around. That's a pretty cool job. Like, it's a pretty cool role that you have within the league.
It's been really fun. I'm enjoying it. Like, it's my first sort of step into player personnel.
Yeah.
So obviously, there's a lot of the role that's evaluating talent, watching a lot of hoops that I wasn't previously watching. Right, watching a lot of kind of European leagues, younger leagues, like these guys that are, for instance, coming through the French program, Rayan Ripper, Ousmane Dieng. These guys have come through a place in France called INSEP, sort of like our Center of Excellence, our AIS.
Right.
Well, they play in the 3rd division of pro ball in France. I've watched a lot of that over the past 6 months. Overtime Elite, a lot of G League, a lot of high school stuff, and a lot of the kind of the junior stuff here in Australia as well. So I've been watching a lot of that, evaluating the talent, building my network of networks within, player agents, NBA scouts, NBA front offices, to be in conversation with, and then also building my relationships with those key decision makers and key guys, coaches and GMs around the league as well, which were already pretty strong, but have become stronger throughout this process. As now I'm not trying to, like, work with them and in the media space, but more so trying to
harass them for info,
or quotes or interviews. And now I'm trying to serve as a guy who can help them get a player that's going to help their team, help their club, help the league overall.